Well, hello everyone. I hate to start this off with an apology again. I know it's been a while since I put out any refined content. Frankly, it is work again. It's just wearing me down in ways I didn't expect. And to say the least, I am looking for a new occupation. I've learned about as much as I can here. It's time to move on. Time to stop dealing with the bullshit. So, as an exercise in stress relief, I would like to just talk about some things that I enjoy, and hopefully you enjoy it too. See how that goes. To start off on a positive note, I am taking better care of my health, specifically in terms of what I'm eating. I've already cut back on eating out, and although I am hesitant to do it, I should be cutting back on my every Saturday pizza. Oh man, damn, that's good. But it's not very good for you. And hopefully that'll help with my sleep issues as well. Kicking off the math and science portion, I would like to talk about temperature in space. Now, of course, it's a silly question to even ask about the temperature of the vacuum of space itself rather than individual objects in the middle, as anything without mass has no capacity to hold thermal energy, or the thermal energy can pass through it, but since it cannot be held, it cannot be measured. So suppose instead that we're going to ask about, say, the International Space Station. We want to know what the temperature is at any given time. To answer this, we have to go back to middle school physics. There are three ways for thermal energy to be transferred: induction, convection, and radiation. Conduction covers transfer by direct contact between different objects and also within an object itself. Convection covers heat transfer by the flow of fluids, whether that be gases or liquids, etc. While that will have an effect within the International Space Station, we will ignore it as convection will have no bearing on heat transfer across the vacuum of space. And finally, radiation, which governs transfer through electromagnetic radiation. As an example, light. So what does all of that mean for our space station? With radiation being the only way for it to gain or lose thermal energy, it will simply gain heat on every surface which the sun's light touches, while anything on the shadow side will lose heat. This is because anything above 0 Kelvin, better known as absolute zero, which is everything actually, will radiate out both light and heat. That includes you just sitting there or listening to me wherever you're doing. You are currently radiating out light and heat, but thankfully within an atmosphere that is somewhat insulated. So if the International Space Station were out in the dead of space, no incoming light whatsoever as far as measuring heat is concerned, it would eventually cool down to the level of cosmic background radiation. The simple way of explaining it is that the heat incoming from solar radiation is more on the sides it impacts than those sides are releasing in radiation, because they do still release radiation. Meanwhile, on the shadow side, the opposite is true. It is releasing more than it is taking. This effect is so pronounced that an astronaut simply moving into the shadow of the International Space Station can experience a drop in 300 degrees. Now, obviously, they're super protected from that, and that does not account for planet shine. But nonetheless, space is awesome. In that vein, I have one more topic to share. A geostationary orbit is an important practice, especially for global positioning systems, communication satellites, or imaging cameras. Earth's geostationary orbital radius is about 42,000 kilometers from center of mass, or 36,000 kilometers from average surface height. But what if Earth turned very slowly? If a day was instead 48 hours, the distance would have to be extended significantly in order to reduce the force of gravity pulling you back in, thus resulting in a slower rotation to align with the planet itself. So let's take a look at our sister planet Venus. Being closer to the Sun, it will revolve around it faster than we do, 38% faster, in fact, at 225 Earth days. However, its rotation is ludicrously low. On Venus's surface, you would experience the passing of one day over the course of 116 Earth days. But speaking astronomically, it would take 243 Earth days to complete one full sidereal rotation, which is longer than its year. This raises some complications with geostationary orbit. Doing the math, we find that a geostationary satellite around Venus would have to orbit at 1.5 million kilometers from center of mass. And this is where we have to bring in another concept. A helisphere describes the general term of sphere of influence, or in effect, which celestial bodies have influence over this orbiting satellite. It turns out we can calculate that too. Venus's helisphere relative to the Sun is barely over 1 million kilometers, but well under 1.5 million kilometers. This means that any object in geostationary orbit around Venus would eventually leave Venus's orbit, and due to the nature of its sidereal rotation, it wouldn't even make a single year before that object is lost. Bringing things closer to home, there's the saying that lights burn brighter in the dark. This is simply untrue. Now, it will appear brighter against the contrast of the areas around it, but by being in darkness, it does not make it produce more lumens. Let's talk about something more applicable to our daily lives. This is a speeding table. Of course, the faster you go, the faster you will get to your destination. But have you considered that for every mile per hour faster that you drive, you actually save less time than the previous mile per hour? This is important because every mile per hour faster you go above the speed limit, the more likely you are to get pulled over, which of course wastes your time. My family goes by the 7 mile per hour rule, which sits comfortably at 15% time saved, but that's still pushing it a bit. If you go all the way up to 10 miles per hour, that's 20% time saved at 40 miles per hour, but of course you're running a greater risk. An easy way to visualize these diminishing returns is think about very low speeds. Take for instance increasing from 1 mile per hour to 2, you save 50% of your travel time, while the equivalent 50% at 40 miles per hour limit would actually be driving at 80, which is a guaranteed ticket. But, just like the real world, let's take a break from that and talk about video games. The Witcher 3 is the definitive RPG, the one that I now base all standards of comparison against. And I love this game, but it may come as a shock to you that I actually hated the combat. It felt too much like Assassin's Creed, which just didn't fit in with the world. It didn't fit in with Geralt. I mean, we're talking about the definitive, legendary Monster Slayer here. It does not make any sense for there to be a level system that affects damage. Imagine for a moment that you are Geralt, this Monster Slayer of yore. You pick up a quest, you track down the monster and find out that it's a chort. Oh wow, that's a pretty tough fight. Maybe I should take a step back and prepare for this. Put an extra couple levels under my belt, buff up my gear, sharpen, make some potions, basic things. Now, how would it not instantly break immersion to realize that you've already killed a number of chort in the past, and that you can improve your chances of killing this thing by talking to people and finishing quests? It was just so mental to me that the basis was not skill-based combat. Yes, it still required skill, but it was nowhere near what was possible, nowhere near what they had the potential for. And so, if you want the true monster slaying experience, the Butcher of Blaviken experience, I heartily recommend The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Enhanced Edition, especially if you play with a keyboard and mouse. This is a total overhaul mod for all things combat. And just to give you an example, by default, it totally eliminates the lock-on. Now that might sound bad, but wait till you hear the rest. In the base game, you lock onto your target, you hit the attack button, either light or heavy, and then your character will automatically close the gap to connect with the attack. In the Enhanced Edition, you directly control the direction in which your character is facing, and when you attack, there are modifier keys to set the distance of that attack. This allows you to do advanced maneuvers like curving behind an enemy's shield, or staying just to the edge of a griffin so he can't clip you with his wing. Further, it removes levels entirely. Everything is on its own playing field. Whether you've been playing for 3 hours or 300 hours, the difference in how easily you can take out a difficult enemy like a chort is your own skill. And of course, preparation. This is how epic monsters are fought. Now there is a system to reward you for adapting your own playstyle. For instance, using lots of weak attacks will allow you to put points into the weak attack tree, while lots of heavy attacks will allow you to put points in the heavy attack tree. This allows your character to naturally progress and get better at the things that you do. No more can you improve alchemy just by stabbing things. You can find the enhanced edition on the Nexus mod site. So let's talk Kenshi. We have official word from the devs to expect the last map quarter release on September 17th. I'm honestly super excited that it's coming this soon, and this also marks version 0.99. That and other word from the devs that the other luxury features won't be making it into the 1.0 release. Think things like animal taming. That's enough for me to speculate that they're aiming for an early to mid 2019 release. On the subject of development, they've made good progress on the world states, which basically means campaigns. If you want to help out local factions and whatnot, there's much better stories along with that. They continue to make significant changes to combat balancing, mostly armor, but they change other things too, like the global damage modifiers, the toughness resistance, enough to invalidate a good number of my videos and resources. The videos, I've just updated the description, but I need to make another calculator. Again. So, Kenshi will remain on the back burner until some of this shit settles down. In the meantime, my colony survival server is down for the moment. I've lost power twice in the last month and a half, and it's damaging to the world state. It doesn't save properly. Load it back up and there are blocks missing, and everyone has to go through and check everything to make sure zombies can't get through and make sure the production is working properly. It's just a mess. That, and they underestimated how much running a full-time server would cost me. It's a shame, really. I haven't given you guys a full update, but we have a new player. He built his new base right next to mine, and it looks great. In 2 or 3 days, he made as much progress as I made in weeks. Now, I'm not done with that yet. I still don't know where I'm going with it. I still have the world saved. I don't know, maybe do some like open weekend things. Let people come on, play their stuff. I'm not satisfied with ending it here. People put too much time into it. But there's also a massive tech sale going on. Unfortunately, it started a couple days ago and I haven't had a chance to get down there. But if there's anything good left when I get there on Saturday, maybe I could find a cheaper server to run, transfer the data over, get a battery backup. I have some math to do and figure out what this is going to cost me per month. Until further notice, I will be in Monster Hunter, killing overly sized things with overly sized swords. I even have a group I'm playing with now, which is unusual, but it's going pretty well. Looking for someone to hunt with, I can certainly do that. I can solo tempered elder dragons, so I'm helpful, to say the least. The group also doesn't mind helping friendly people. I host open streams where anyone is welcome to join. So if you want to jump in, play with the guys, the best place to get notifications is on my Discord. And this is, of course, on PC. So there you have it. A whole bunch of useless information. And hopefully you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it. Until next time, this is Terminarch out.